Hello guys, in this video we're going to learn how to do render time subdivision in Arnold. And all the options that we're interested in are located under the Arnold tab, subdivision, at the object level of each node. And the tab that we're interested in is called subdivision. And all we have to do is change the type from none to catmull. And I have a box here and I need to assign a shader. So I have a box with an orange shader and we have turned on subdivision, and I'm going to switch to the render view and hit render. And we can see that the box is now being subdivided. Now there is extra geometry in this box, so let me create a new one here. So this should do it. And now if I hit render, we should see the box being subdivided once. And that's what makes it turn from a cube into a sphere. And I'm going to increase the iteration to subdivide it twice. And this will make it look more sphere-like, and the higher the value, the more subdivision we're going to apply to the mesh. Now, this change requires Arnold to pre-subdivide the mesh. That's why I have to keep hitting the render button, because there is a new geometry that needs to be passed to the render. And we can set this to 6, for example, and that will subdivide the box 6 times, and it will make it look like a sphere, a perfect sphere. And this is basically the basics of render time subdivision. And I want to do the same thing with the tank now. So I'm going to go under the out and make sure that my tank is included. And I'm going to select the tank and turn on subdivision. And I'm going to hit render. And it's going to take a second for it to subdivide. And now we have a subdivided tank. And the higher the value, the more it's going to subdivide, and the slower it's going to be to generate the mesh before it starts rendering, because Arnold needs to subdivide the mesh and cache it into memory. So the higher the number of iteration and the more complex the geometry, the longer the render is going to take before it starts the first bucket. So keep that in mind. And there is a very useful feature, a very useful shader. So I'm going to turn off the subdivision. And there is a very useful shader that I always use to know whether I have enough geometry in my mesh or not, or if I have the proper subdivision that I need. And what I do is I'm going to go to the shop level, and I'm going to create a new shader, and I'm going to create an Arnold shader network and call this debug wireframe. And Arnold ships with a wireframe shader. So I'm going to hit tab and type in wireframe, and all we have to do is connect this guy to the surface. And now I'm going to switch back and assign the shader to the tank, and we've called it debug wireframe. And now if I hit render, we should see a render of the actual wireframe, and this is going to match 100% the current geometry that we have, and this is the topology that we currently have. Now I'm going to take a snapshot of this so we can save a copy of this, and I'm going to turn on the subdivision and subdivide the tank once. And it's going to take a few seconds for it to do the subdivision, and then it's going to start. And now this is the new mesh, and this shader is very useful to tell you how much polygons you have and whether you have the enough geometry to work with. And if we compare, we can see that indeed the mesh is being subdivided. And the higher the number, I'm going to take a snapshot of this one. The higher the number, the more polygons we're gonna have. The other option that is good to know about is the UV smoothing, and this allows you to control how you want to apply the subdivision to your UV coordinate. This depends. This generally you have to match whatever software you use to generate displacement maps and stuff like that. So for if you have displacement map that were extracted based on an unsubdivided model versus if your displacement map contains the difference between a mid-res and a high-res, you probably want to use the same mode that you use to generate the displacement maps. And now I have the new render here, and we can compare the three renders, and we can see the higher the values, the more subdivision we have. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.